Welcome to the Black Ops 7 beta, where the doors are automatic, the zombies are for actual farming, and the matchmaking makes matches maddening. See, Treyarch really cooked up something special for us here. SBO7 combines elements from just about every other Black Ops title into one big boiling pot, taking the literal bones of BO6, the vertical movement of BO3, a dash of weapons and vibes from BO2, and the overall community resentment from BO4, all melding together into something that's actually pretty fun to play. You just kind of feel guilty about it, or at least I do. Now, this may be a bit of a different video for me. I'm not generally a big review guy. My opinions are as baseless and as flimsy as my metaphors. But every year, I like to make a video wrapping up my thoughts on the beta as a nice little bow to close out what's usually the best weekend of Call of Duty every year, as well as to provide a little bit of feedback to any COD devs who happen to be listening from that unmarked windowless van that's been parked across the street from my house for the last week. I know you're in there. Real quick before we get into it, I'm gonna do my best this video. I'm not gonna mention SBMM at all. I know that is like one huge complaint that the community has, specifically with this beta. And actually, as I record this, right, like literally an hour ago, they just released an open mosh pit playlist that actually completely removes SBMM, which is incredible. Love to see it. But just for the sake of trying to focus on the game itself, I feel like the matchmaking system, especially because SBMM has been such a huge problem forever, I kind of put that on the franchise itself, right? That is a problem with Call of Duty, not a problem with Black Ops 7. And so for today, I just want to focus on BO7. I don't want to get bogged down in SBMM or EOMM or whatever the fuck you want to call it this year. I just want to focus on the actual game itself for a bit, if you'll allow me. Because honestly, I'm actually having a pretty good time with this game. There's definitely some issues that we'll get into in a second, but overall, I think that the core of this game is pretty solid. And speaking of synonyms for good, I'm going to start the good section here with the movement, which feels about the same as BO6. There's really no surprise there. But the devs seem to have actually designed the maps around the new Omni movement system this year. So overall, it feels a bit slower. You know, that there's more room to breathe in between gunfights and post up on cover and at power positions again, as opposed to the winning strategy always just being the old sprint and flick. And one part of the movement toolbox that I was actually really afraid of was the wall bounce mechanic, where you can jump off a flat wall into the air. And my biggest fear was that you'd find yourself constantly in gunfights with people ping-ponging around like it's a kindergartner's field trip to the bowling alley. But honestly, I don't think I really saw too many people, if anyone, actively using it in combat. Instead, it was just kind of an addition to the mantle, letting you reach higher ledges and even completely new areas on the map. For instance, on exposure, there's this hanging shipping crate that you can bounce up inside of, then chain that into a jump onto this platform in the middle that gives you a bird's eye view of the entire map. Now granted, there's legitimately zero cover up here, but it can be helpful against some teams who haven't exactly figured it out yet. And that's one of the things that I like most about the maps here. I'm a big fan of unique elements like this. You know, if I were to subscribe to a magazine, it would be Variety. Sorry, that's a really bad joke. I'm so sorry. So I love that each of the maps here kind of has its own little thing, like Forge's spinning courtyard, or the hidden vent on Cortex, or the elevator on Imprint. You know, the kind of thing that you may not notice right away and makes it so that you need to learn the map a bit and widens the skill gap in a more organic way compared to just who has the best weapon build. And hey, you know, speaking of weapons, let's talk about them quick. Where again, I absolutely love the variety here, at least so far. One complaint that I have always had with modern COD is that most guns all just kind of blend together, but that's just straight up not a concern for me here. Now granted, it could be that there's actually just so few weapons in this build of the game that every gun actually can be visually or mechanically distinct from one another like this, but hey, you know what? I take it how it is. You got the Peacekeeper and the M8A1 returning from VO2 that both feel incredible. And I was actually also really liking the MXR too, which kind of reminded me of the Scar or the Rampart. You know, it's just a slower fire rate, higher damage AR with some unique iron sights to it. But one of my favorite, just for fun guns though, was actually the Breacher shotgun that comes with a charge up if you hold down the right trigger. And it didn't take long to figure out that I could combine that with Gung Ho so that you can actually hold it down while sprinting into people, and you can play it like it's fucking Doom. It was so cool, such an interesting, different way of playing the game that I thought was really, really fun. And I know you may be looking at the footage here and thinking, wow, that's OP as hell. It's gotta get nerfed. And to that I say, please don't. Please don't. Because class builds that actually change up the gameplay are what's seriously needed in this franchise right now. I know that I said I wasn't going to talk about SBMM and the overly sweaty lobbies here, but a big reason for these overly sweaty lobbies is that the whole sweat playstyle of jumping around with a meta AR is just the only way to play these days. It boggles my brain that during COD Next, while I was going in and out of consciousness during the way too long Warzone section, I heard one of the devs say that they were looking to change up the meta more over the year. Which, yeah, that is better than just a single gun ruling lobbies forever, but does that mean that they're creating metas? Is that the actual goal here now? In my opinion, if a game has a defined meta like that, that's the issue. Like, are we not aiming for gun balance anymore? It just seems like we lost the plot somewhere along the way, man. And so as such, I would love to see more out there class builds in general that are actually viable, like this Breacher. You know, a big reason that people loved MW2 back in the day was that everything was just crazy overpowered, so that whether you had dual 1887s, you were quick scoping, using a zero recoil ACR, or just running around with a commando knife, you were still getting kills and you were still having a good time with all these different playstyles. And for that reason, I actually really like that they're going a little bit more crazy with the equipment here too. Like, they're dipping their toes into some fun futuristic tech here. You know, you have the pinpoint grenades that stick to enemies and give you wall hacks on them until they're removed. They brought back the decoy, but combined it with the ACS module, so now you can capture points with it too. And I think the drone pods are a little spammy right now, but once the game fully opens up, I do think that it'll be a little bit more of a welcome occasional mix-up to the formula. And that actually extends over into the overclock system too. I actually really like and appreciate the upgrades to your equipment that you can kind of guide in one way or the other to fit whatever you're specifically going for. It does seem a bit strange that it applies to just about everything except for perks, considering that pro perks have already been a thing in past years that people have been asking to come back for 10 years or so, but regardless, we'll get to that in a minute. A couple other stragglers here for the good section though. I actually really like the new mode Overload as a newish take on the uplink game, and I hope that new modes like this are more consistently part of the game's post-launch offering. The UI and the music and the menus are actually really doing it for me here too. It all feels thought out and like it has a cohesive direction this year and is different enough from last year, even though a lot of the actual menu layouts are the same. Super small thing, but I also appreciate that you can move while mounted again, like you could back in Vanguard. Small little addition to the toolbox, but it's appreciated nonetheless. And lastly, here's a quick tier list of all the maps featured in the beta. Overall, I think that they're all pretty decent, but has one major thing holding them all back. And you know what? That's probably a good enough transition into the bad section. Although, to be honest, I don't think I'm gonna have nearly as much negative to say here as some other people may. For instance, I've heard a ton of complaints about the time to kill in this game being too fast, but honestly, it felt kind of fine to me. It could just be that I like a slightly faster TTK. IDK though. One thing that I've gotta mention, even though I don't see anyone else bringing this up, so it might just be a me thing, we gotta talk about the announcers quick. I will say, the guy that they got for the guild, I love. But the voice actor on the other side, on the Black Ops side, I don't know, man.
Safety's off. We're not here to make friends. We got the advantage. Now we have to keep it. Our locations are ours. Hell yeah!
It gives me like quippy paintball theater vibes, and just, it is such a small nitpick, you know, so like realistically, that doesn't fully matter in the grand scheme of things. There is, however, I think two major issues that I do want to voice my concerns over. And first is doors. I don't know what it is about modern COD devs and doors, but I don't know how a feature can just be so clearly one-sided and they still insist on including. Like I straight up don't know anyone who is gung-ho about doors. Is anyone out there for doors? And for this game, it was even a marketing point that manual doors were completely removed. But to take their place, they just tripled down on automatic doors, to the point that it's genuinely comical just how many there are on these beta maps. And actually, as a quick correction, or I guess not correction, but update, since the beginning of the beta, they actually did go through and remove a couple doors. It seems like they also tweaked like the range and the duration, and so it has gotten a little bit better as the weekend has gone on. They also did put out in a blog post, they said that only 5 of the 16 maps on launch have automatic doors, and it just so happens that 4 out of the first 4 maps we've seen in beta have been part of those 5, which is incredible luck. But yeah, bottom line is, I think doors still need to be pulled back a little bit. It's just too much, frankly. Then the other thing that I think needs some serious work in this game is perks. So to set the stage, Black Ops 6 had a pretty traditional perk system, right? You had 3 perk tiers, but they added in this color coding system. And if you matched the same color across all 3 perk slots, then you would unlock a 4th specialty perk. And in my opinion, it only led to more restraints when it came to classes. It felt like I was trapped within these specific colors because I wanted to match all 3 up to get that 4th bonus one. And so now in Black Ops 7, it seems like their solution to that problem is to now create hybrid specialties, which are assigned by mixing 2 different colors of perks. And this really just feels like they're overthinking it. It's a hat on a hat. It just creates a system where I am more concerned about what color the perk is than what the perk actually does. In other words, it's making me racist. Great job, Treyarch. So like, I'm looking at the perks right now. There's straight up 9 of them in each perk slot. And a lot of them give you such small buffs that they almost feel pointless to choose unless you're trying to fill a color quota. This perk highlights the enemy that killed you. This one gives you health on melee kills. This one makes you invisible to traps and mines, as opposed to this other one that does the same against thermal optics. It feels like a lot of these are just in here in order to make each color have a somewhat equal number of perks so that the specialty system can work as intended. It seems like over the years, perks have gotten less and less powerful. And I don't like that because now it puts everything on the gunsmith system, which just bakes out all personality, all variety out of the class system in general. So personally, I think that a much simpler, more streamlined solution to all of this would be to combine a lot of these perks together and then take some of the smaller ones that just give you like one tiny little buff and maybe make them overclocks. You know, like make Shadow an overclock for Cold-Blooded. You could have one perk like Lightweight have an overclock for Tac Sprint on one end or Gung Ho on the other. Or Gearhead can let you either earn your field upgrades faster or bank 2 of them at a time. I want to be able to look at the perk list and immediately be able to tell this one is killstreak focused, that one is all about speed or whatever, which despite their color coding here and you know, having enforcer and recon strategist, that doesn't mean anything to me. Like, how is something like fast hands that lets you reload faster any more of a strategist role than an enforcer role? It doesn't work when you try to fit everything in these boxes like this, and I think just making perks feel like perks again instead of trying to like build these decks. Let's just move on to the next bit. I've talked about this way too long here. Then I was gonna do a whole section on zombies, but honestly, I think I've yapped enough for today. We only got to play a single map of survival, and the core of BO7 zombies is really just BO6 zombies, but with some fireworks. So, yeah, like there's not too much to say there yet. I mean, the map looks incredible. I love the new audio cues and bosses, and the new fresh coat of paint on things like the ammo boxes, kind of bringing it into this dark ether world. Small stuff like that really goes a long way, at least for me. But really, it's just not enough to put together a solid opinion on the actual mode quite yet. But now, I want to take a second to address something. It seems like no matter where you go, no matter who you talk to, some variation of the question, is this game just Black Ops 6.5, will come up. And look, that's the sort of question that I don't think I can definitively answer for you. That's one of those things that if you're asking, you already have a specific bias toward yes or no. Let's just cut the bullshit here. Now, to me, I think it's just as much its own Call of Duty game as any other Call of Duty. You know, you can put footage of both games side by side all day, but the truth of the matter is that any game you put side by side with its sequel is going to look the same. That's how sequels work. I mean, are you walking out of Empire Strikes Back because the dude has the same lightsaber as the last movie? The way that I look at COD is the same way that I look at a season of a TV show or a sport. Every year, I re-up for the next installment, knowing that I'll get X amount of hours of enjoyment out of it because I still had fun with the last season and want to see how it progresses. What happens next? And I'm sorry, maybe I'm just too simple, maybe I'm smooth-brained, maybe I'm fucking autistic, I don't know, but I like playing the next thing. Even when a game isn't necessarily great, I still like playing it to see what the fuck they did that year. What they fucked up, what hidden gems they have in there. And even Call of Duty games that I genuinely dislike, I still feel like I got my money's worth. Hell, I'd even say games that I absolutely hated, I still feel like I got my money's worth somehow. It's like a switch flips in my brain whenever I get 2 hours into a game like Mafia: The Old Country and realize it's dog shit. And suddenly I have a somehow better time talking shit about it as I finish the entire thing in 2 days. I think maybe that's part of why so many people love like the COD is dead type content, because it's kind of like having a sports team that's just fucking terrible. You kind of want them to crash and burn, because when they crash and burn, then leadership might change, or they might get a better draft pick, or maybe competition will come and somehow improve the thing that deep down you really love. And that's where I'm at. Did that have anything to do with the beta? I gotta get back to the script here, man. And so through that lens, yeah, BO7 is just like BO6 with a new sandbox. In the same way that Modern Warfare 2 was just COD 4 with a new sandbox. And BO2 was just BO1 with a new sandbox. And you know what? It was okay then, and it's okay now. It just isn't that deep. So that's my take anyway. Let me know yours down below. Thank you so much for watching. If channel members are listed everywhere, all everywhere. If you want to become a channel member, it's 99 cents. You get exclusive videos. You get to support the channel. You guys know the drill if you're here. That's about it. Shout out to Treyarch. Shout out to my boy John. I don't know anyone named John. I need to start scripting outros.